potentially test that. Perfect. But I want to welcome everyone. My name is Megan Van Wart, and I'm based in Vermont. And it is a pleasure to work with AARP for these classes. We've been working together for many years, and some of you are new faces. Some of you have taken my classes before. So no matter who you are, I'm so glad you're here. We'll go over the supplies ever so briefly before we get started, and then we'll go ahead and jump right in, okay? So for tonight's class, and for any of our classes, really moving forward, you'll need brushes, right? You'll need something to paint on. I like to paint on canvas board. I like to paint on acrylic paper. You can paint on anything in these classes. We really like to keep it flexible. So we're never going to tell you to paint on one particular thing. And sometimes that's really nice because you can use whatever you have. You don't have to go back and spend extra money. If folks could take a moment just to mute themselves, it would just reduce any background noise. I do encourage videos. Videos are not required. Sometimes in these classes, it's really fun to show off our work along the way. But if you just like want to have your own private art time and not show anything, that's okay too. So in addition to your canvas or something to paint on and your brushes, you'll need paints of some kind. Now tonight, in a lot of my classes, I use acrylic paints. But I love for you to have an option. If you wanted to use watercolors, or if you wanted to use different things like inks or watercolor pencils or colored pencils, you can bring any of those items into our classes, okay? So I'm here to guide us, to inspire you, and hold space for you to practice your creativity. That's really why we're here. And I just want to thank you so much for being here tonight. All right. Let's just make sure everyone can see me here. Give me a thumbs up if you can see me full screen.
I can't see you.
You can't see me. Okay, some people can see me full screen, some people can't. In the top right-hand corner, there's a view icon. Perfect. I just got spotlighted. Excellent. Now you can all see me big, bold, and beautiful. Let's get that nice and clean for you. So the paints that you'll need for tonight, I'm using acrylic paints, and the colors I'll be using, so this is our inspiration over here. Our inspiration is beautiful reds and oranges and whites. Really with any of our classes, if you come to our classes with blue, yellow, and red, those are primaries, and black and white, I'll teach you in these classes on how to blend lots of colors, okay? So don't ever worry if you think you have the right colors or not. You don't need one of those 20 color sets to get going, okay? So all good there. The other supply that you'll need for tonight is a paper plate, something to mix paint colors on. It's always helpful to have a paper towel, okay? And you need a cup of water to rinse your brushes, okay? So take a moment to grab those items if you don't have those already. The other bonus supply that you'll need for tonight is a pencil. So I like having a pencil because we can do a little bit of light sketching. Yeah, I hear a little feedback too. Let's just make sure everybody is muted here. I'm just gonna look through the list. We do have more new folks joining, so we'll mute them upon arrival here. So I appreciate your patience as folks join, but we'll make sure they're muted.
Megan, Jenny can't get in, and I don't know what's going on. Just an FYI. I don't know if anybody can do anything. Just
we do have Ashley on the line. If maybe you can send Ashley a private message. Maybe with Jenny.
I'll put my email in the chat.
Oh yeah, that would be good.
Megan, can I just say something? I had trouble getting in because it kept asking me for a passcode and I hadn't gotten that. I emailed you saying I tried, and then I went to my email and I last minute got an email with the passcode. So whoever's having trouble, maybe they can check their email and see if they got a separate email with the passcode.
Perfect. Yeah, we did the setup for tonight's class a little bit different. We were setting it up as a webinar, so it was being set up and the invites were being sent differently. So we appreciate your feedback there. But once you're registered for this class, you will get an email before the class with like a full link. I think maybe that's something we can keep it out on in the future.
I did get the link, but there was a meeting ID number, but no pass. And then I checked my email, and like 5 minutes ago, I got an email with a passcode in it.
Okay.
There were previous emails.
Okay.
So
So I think
that's
that's,
why I was able to just get logged in.
okay. So we may have more folks joining then. So Ashley's on the line. She's managing some of the operational details behind this. We can definitely, we appreciate the feedback. We'll definitely see what we can do differently in the future.
I'd let you know my process.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
It's good to see you, Megan.
Nice to see you too. Okay, so everyone get your supplies. We're getting settled in. You need a pencil. If you have one in the house, great. If not, it's okay. You don't need one. But there's so many folks here from all over the country. A warm welcome. I'll tell you a little bit about these classes. I like to keep these classes really fun and light. They're designed to be approachable. So no matter if you've painted before recently or in a really long time, I love these classes. It's going to give you the space to practice your creativity. As an artist, you have options. So I'm going to coach you through the different options you have throughout class. And I'm going to encourage you to be a little different. Okay. So being an artist, you make choices, and we don't all have to paint the same thing. We all have our inspiration tonight, which is our warm cup of, our chai latte or our pumpkin spice latte. But our pictures can look a little different. And with art, I like saying it's okay if you want to do something a little different. Okay. So a really important thing, I want you to be yourself throughout these classes. Okay. We are our own worst critics. And I'm going to remind you to be really kind to yourself too. Okay. But we'll go ahead and jump in. This is our inspiration for tonight. The inspiration is a warm cup of your favorite fall drink. Get into the moment here. And you're going to have some fun fall leaves. The perspective on this inspiration tonight is I'm looking down. I'm looking down and I see my latte. Now, you could do this perspective, or you could just paint a mug with some steam coming out the top. Okay. Those are choices that you get to make as an artist. And in these classes, I love demonstrating similar things, but different principles to show you what it's like to be a little risky, to try different designs. But that's why we start with a pencil. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and jump in. If you have any questions along the way, please feel free to unmute and ask. You're welcome to use the chat box as well. Again, my name is Megan, and I'm so glad you're here with us tonight. But we'll go ahead and jump in together. Okay, so one of the first things that we're going to do is you have your canvas paper. We're going to do a little sketching. Now, I like being different sometimes in these classes, just to show you what it's like to think outside of the box. So maybe tonight I will do a mug, like a mug standing up straight. If some of you want to do that round looking down latte cup, you can. Okay. So I like demonstrating what it's like to kind of change an idea, because sometimes it's okay to kind of evolve your ideas. So I could do a mug, or I could do the pumpkin spice latte with the cup. If you have an idea of what you want to do, post it in the chat so you can give people an idea of, oh, which one am I going to do? Am I going to do something a little different, or am I going to follow Megan? Now, some of you might just follow me because you just want to keep it easy, and that's okay too. So I'll keep it easy tonight. I'll just do the one just like the inspiration. I'll do it looking down to keep it consistent, okay? But I'll mix up the position of the leaves. So the first thing you do is you figure out, how big do I want my cup to be? And you think about the position of the cup. So for me, I'm going to put my cup right here. It doesn't have to be off-centered. It could be a big cup of latte. This is a round circle. So we're doing a round circle. If anybody wants to cheat and go grab a small bowl out of your kitchen, I'm not going to tell anybody. And I'm going to have a small handle that's going to come out here. So this is where my pretty latte design is going to be. Okay. And I'm using pencil. So if I need to erase a line, I can. Okay. No big deal. So I like to get my cup in place. Okay. Because I want this to be nice and bright. Now we could go on and paint our leaves and draw our leaves in right now. That would be totally fine for us to do too. So you can think about, we're going to draw some of our leaves in next, and then we'll have fun filling in the background. Now, there's always lots of different ways to paint art. So we could, as one instance, we could paint the entire background right now if we wanted to, and then we could draw our leaves on top. That would be a really easy thing to do. We could also draw our leaves. So there's lots of different aspects. So I like talking about that in these classes. So you know there's a lot of different ways you can approach art, and there's not always one right way or another. But the easiest thing to do for tonight is we have our cup. Let's paint the entire background. I did like a soft peach color. You can kind of pick and choose what you want to do. And then we'll do our leaves on top. So I'm going to have my plate here, and I'm going to grab my acrylic paint.
The picture froze. Okay, you're back.
Okay, cool. So we're gonna make a light orange peach color. So I'm going to take a little dollop of red. It's about a thumbnail's worth. And yellow and red make orange. It's really, ladies and gents, it's yellow with a tiny touch of red, to be totally frank. And then you can grab a brush that you have at home. I'm going to grab one of my bigger brushes because I'm going to paint the whole background. And I'm also going to grab a little bit of white paint. So I'll mix these colors with you so we can do it together. We want the background color to be lighter because we're putting fall foliage leaves on top. So you could do like a light yellow background. I'm going to make like a light peachy background. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of the red. I'm going to mix it with my yellow. So I'm going to start making like an orange color, and then I'll add some white to this. A little red goes a long way. So in these classes, I'll always teach you how to blend colors. And it's really important that you take the time and you mix colors that you like. There is no rush with these art classes. So I'm mixing a nice orange. Once you have a nice orange, I'm just going to grab a healthy dollop of white, and I'm going to lighten it. Healthy dollop here. And to make it a little more like beigey color, you can add a little bit more yellow. You can play with the colors here. I'm going to grab a little bit more yellow. It's going to make it a little bit more beige, a little bit kind of warmer. But find a nice, and this is fairly light. I want it to be really light in color. So I just grabbed a little bit more white. Find a nice background color. And we're going to have some fun with the background. So the background does not have to be a totally solid color. You can start where you want. I'm going to add a little bit of movement to the background. Look at that. Isn't that liberating? Ooh. You're going to have some fun. Give your background a little movement. Look, I have a little bit of red that came in there. Look at that. It's okay. Have some fun. Paint this background in any way that you want. We're going to go around your cup. I accidentally had a little of red on my paintbrush, and I call this a happy little accident here. Look at this. Try putting a little bit of extra white on your brush. See these fun blending colors? This is all just pretty background. So have some fun with how you fill in your background. If you like yellow, ladies and gents, bring in some yellow. We're going to be putting leaves on this. I personally want this to be a little bit lighter, so I might bring in a little bit of white on my brush. But have some fun with these brush strokes. There's no risk in this step. I promise you can't mess anything up. I'll tell you where the risky areas are of your choices. This is not a risky area, I promise. The best thing for this is to keep this background as light as possible. Look at, I have some white in here. So fun. And I'm just going around my coffee cup. The reason I did the coffee cup first is because I really want to hold some white space for the edging. We'll save up some paint. Ooh, yeah. So pretty. Experiment with the different paints on your brush. Do long, smooth brush strokes. Sometimes it's fun to put different colors on your brush. Let's clip this down. So take a couple minutes, feel a little liberated here, have some fun. I'm going to remind you to have fun in these classes. Try not to take your work too seriously. And we'll get our background painted together. But a warm welcome. Again, my name is Megan. For anyone that's recently joined, you will need a pencil for today's class and some paint. And we're just painting all around our mug. So we're doing a full background. So fun. Play with different colors. So let's see, let me show you the colors I have. So I have this light peachy color, maybe a little bit of yellow. It's okay to have lots of colors on your brush at this time. And if you want to like kind of, if you go inside your cup a little bit or on the handle, it's okay. But the purpose is to make sure your whole canvas is filled in and you can have some fun brush strokes. See how much more thrilling and a little more engaging this background is with a little bit of movement and with some multiple colors coming in. It's quite fun. It's a little liberating here. I'm going to make a little bit more paint. I'm trying to keep it light. So if anybody's on this step, your goal is you want to try to keep it on the lighter side because we're going to be putting some orange leaves and some yellow leaves and our cup of joe here. So have some fun with some of these brush strokes and just relax. The purpose of tonight's class is to give you time to feel renewed, practice something new, bringing some pinks in. This is just art happening, okay? That's why we're here, for art to happen. Don't take it too seriously, just have fun with it. And I wasn't planning on bringing in all these colors, and sometimes it's fun just being in the moment and seeing what happens. And that's a value and a principle that I hold in all my classes, just to kind of be in the moment. You show up with the supplies and we'll have some fun together. We are doing monthly classes with the AARP, so be sure to come back, and Ashley will post the registration link for the next class. Be sure to sign up and join us. All right. So my goal here is to make sure that all this is filled in. Sometimes it's nice to dip your brush in a little bit of water to fill in all those nooks and crannies, to kind of help blend the colors. So for me, my goal is to kind of fill in all these nooks and crannies so we can move on to the next step. So I'm doing some like long, smooth brush strokes. Your brush strokes can kind of go off the page if you want. It's kind of fun. Just making sure I don't have any crazy ones. And you can see it's a little wet. Ashley, thank you so much. Ashley posted the registration for next month. And then I'm just gonna let this dry. And this is where we just breathe and we just say, nice job. Mine is very funky and abstract, very different than my inspiration. And I'll show you, I always love showing you the differences. It's a little darker, it's not so light, but that means I can make my leaves a little darker, a little more vibrant. So it's okay. Just kind of embrace where you're at. So you want your background to dry. I have some water on I was a little loosey-goosey with my water. So you can always take your brush, dry it off with a little bit of paper towel, and I can go over any spots that are a little too wet. It could have too much paint. Maybe your paint's a little too thick. But this is acrylic paint that I'm using. So it's really just going to take a couple minutes to dry. So one of the things that I talk about and support in these classes is a little bit of patience. Patience may being to let your paint dry. Patience may be of finding the right color before you move on. All the things. So if anyone's just joining, we're just painting our backgrounds a nice light color. My previous inspiration, it was much lighter, but we're going to be putting leaves on top of this. So I could just use darker leaves. I could add more vibrant leaves. So I'm not too worried about it. It'll be just fine. But I'm being patient and letting my canvas dry. So So that's good. While the canvas is drying, if your background is good, we're not going to draw the leaves yet, but if you wanted to take a little bit of white paint and just ever so perfect your cup, you can, because my cup isn't so perfect, and it's okay. It's hard to draw a perfect circle. So again, if you want to go to the kitchen and grab a small salad bowl with a pencil and trace it, or go get a big mug out of the kitchen, that could be a really good choice too. No judgment zone in these classes. We use any props when we can. So the goal of this step is to let your background dry, finish your background and let your background dry. And then I'm going to take a small brush. I have this small brush right here. Don't mind the paint on my hands. And this is probably a number 2 or 3 kind of small flat-headed brush. I'm just going to use this to perfect the shape of my cup. So I might go around the edge and just get the edging nice and even per se, okay? So take a moment to do that as your background is drying, because once our background is dry, we can get our leaves on. And if you have like a little smudging, like if it's wet near your cup, don't worry. Don't worry. We're not going to paint the inside of the cup white, just we don't need to at this point, but we just want the cup to be as round as possible. Unless you have like a broken cup, and then it doesn't have to be round, right? You can choose your cup. And I'm going to do my handle. My handle got a little yellow on it, a little orange, so I'm just going to do a light coat. Let's see here. I'm just going to go around the edges to support the shape. Now, my work is never perfectly round. And that's why it's sometimes a little less stressful if you want to trace something. It's okay if you paint it over your handle, no big deal. Just go back and paint a new one. Just paint a new one, no big deal. Just wait for your background color to dry before you do that. You can see my handle's like a little orangey and yellow. It's okay, no big deal. We roll through those little things. So my cup is getting rounder. It's not perfect, but it's getting there. As you make your cup round, it might get a little bigger. That's okay. A little bit more coffee is not always a bad thing. A little more tea. Okay, so I'm not striving for perfection here. We're just enjoying this. My background is drying nicely. With acrylic paint, when it's not so shiny, it's getting dry. It will start to look matte, non-shiny. Okay. The other thing I'll mention is throughout these classes, be sure to like grab your favorite cup of tea, grab a seltzer, just grab whatever you need, maybe a snack to settle into this process. I know how difficult it can be to find time for yourself. And maybe you're painting with someone right now. Enjoy this time for you. Laugh at your mistakes and embrace the revisions, right? That's why we're here. We're here to have a good time. So be sure to enjoy yourself along the way here as our artwork evolves together. Okay, perfect. So we're doing great for time. So I'll have you move on with me for the next step once you're ready. If you ever need a little bit more time, feel free to do that. Everyone works at their own paces. So in these classes, always feel free to, slow down if you need to slow down. If someone comes and knocks at your door, don't worry. We do have these classes recorded, so you'll have access to that information after, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and take my pencil, and I'm going to have fun with some of my leaf-like designs, okay? Now, one of the things I'll share for this class is the more leaves you paint, the longer it's going to take to fill in. So this inspiration took me, it was probably 2 hours, but I did a lot of extra detail work on this. I did a lot of shading. I did a lot of leaf detail. So I'm going to focus on 2 major leaves and then some of these birch-like tree leaves. And maybe I'll do another one here. So I want you to think about the positioning of your leaves. And sometimes if you're a visual learner, you can open up your phone, open a tab in Google and Google like maple leaf to see how many points there are. Sometimes it's nice to look at something to have a visual reference. So feel free to do that if you don't know exactly the shape of a maple leaf or the shape of a birch leaf. So this is where you have the choice as an artist of what you want to add in for leaves. Maybe you want to add in like little flowers with some leaves. Maybe you want to add in just like one style leaf. You can pick and choose. And maybe I'll tuck in a flower or two just to like throw in a little mixture for tonight, okay? But let's start with some of these bigger leaves first. So we have to talk about placement and composition. So the composition of my original was I had leaves up the top in the top right corner, and they came down here really on the bottom left. Well, maybe for tonight, since we get to make our own choices, maybe I'll do like a smattering of leaves kind of focused around the middle of the cup, right? So these are all choices that we can make. And that's one of the fun things about art. And I like to get you thinking about some of those details. So I'm going to start and I'm gonna do leaves kind of like all around, and they're gonna kind of like be tucked in under my latte. I want my latte to be like the focus. And I'm just gonna start by drawing a leaf. So the maple leaves kind of have one point. And I'll try to push down heavy with my pencil so you can see it. They have kind of one point on top, and then they have a side, and then they have a bottom. So they kind of have 5 points on them. There, so there's a maple leaf right here. And I'll add some more like detail to it. Maybe there's some extra points down here. And I'll bring it a little closer so you can see it. So I just did a little bit of a leaf. It's not entirely even, so I'll make some adjustments to the shape. But you can see I'm just getting in some of the basic leaf-like shapes, leaf-like details. And then maybe I'll just tuck in some leaves, some additional leaves around this. So you can see I'm just kind of tucking in some additional leaves. So I want you to use your pencil. And I want you to just ever so slowly to start to dance and start to put in some leaves around your cup. So find a rhythm that works for you. And I'm going to kind of vary in size. Maybe there's a big leaf overlapping here. So I did a little maple leaf here. I'm going to add all that like rigid like detail as we go. But you can also do just like a couple of bigger rounded leaves. Like if these maple leaves are really hard for you to draw, just do like a nice rounded leaf and try like tucking in another rounded leaf in the back. See that? So you're kind of adding some fun layering. So I'm going to do an array of leaves around. So the maple leaves, again, have 5 points. We're going to paint them in. We're doing sketching to bring them to life. As you're painting them around your cup, if you're doing that, you can turn your canvas if you wanted to really change the positioning. So, and I'm also trying to do, they're kind of like star shapes a little bit, but I'm going to add some of that point-like detail. The top one is a little bigger. I'm going to add some of that point-like detail as we go here, but have some fun layering in some rounded birch-like leaves. And I like turning my canvas because you're kind of like changing the angle of the leaves as you go. So if you look at it flat on again, you can see it's like this beautiful, like little array of leaves kind of on the underside. Now, if you don't want to do this design with me, you don't have to. You can just do big sporadic leaves like this. I'm doing something a little different just to inspire you to think outside the box as an artist. So I did one here. These two are very similar size. So I'm being intentional as an artist to make my next one a little bit bigger. So as you're peppering in different leaves with your pencil, I'm going to turn this, rotating my canvas. The next one's going to be a little bit bigger. So let's see here. I'm going to make this one bigger. Oh my gosh, so big. And I'm going to make it more pointy and give it all that leaf-like detail after. but I'm getting the leaf-like shapes in. And if you wanted to play with your pencil, you could do your like funky like leaf-like shapes now. You could. And I'm kind of layering in a little leaf. See how I put a leaf kind of right on top of this bigger leaf? And the leaf-like detail will add in, or like these teeth on the side of leaves, we'll paint that in. But just to show you, that will make your leaves look a little more normal. So the big red maple leaves for me are going to be like dark red burgundy colors, so they really stand out. And then I'll do like orange and yellow birch-like leaves. So maybe I'll add in a big birch leaf here. So pretty. See how I'm alternating the shapes? Rotating my canvas. And this is just an idea, right? I love for you to make your own choices and think about making your own choices as an artist. If some of your leaves look a little funky, don't worry. We're going to come in and paint them to make them look more realistic. Some of my leaves look more like stars right now, which is okay, but we're just getting basic shapes in. So this is where we just like embrace the process. Maybe I'll do like a little leaf tucked in here. And we can fill in. Maybe we'll tuck in some like flowers and stuff in here too. So I probably just breezed through that really quickly, but I wanted to at least give you something to look at. Over here, I have like a little bit of extra room. So maybe I'll like draw like a little bit of a flower over here. So think about the space on your canvas. So one of the things as you're drawing away, I'm doing a flower over here because I have a space to do it. One of the things we do in these classes is for you to think about the overall composition and the placement of things. So I tucked in a flower because I had a lot of extra space on this side. But now I'm going to have to add one of these cute little flowers over here too. So I like to teach you a little bit of balance and composition. And these are the fun little surprises that happen in these classes. We didn't market cute little fall flowers, but this is the surprises that happen. And maybe I'll tuck in another one. So I like to have balance. So if there's a flower over here, I like to put one on the left and the right. So see how this is balanced? I'm going to tuck another little one in down here. So the pencil allows us to plan the composition. And I could even tuck in a little one down here. Because what's going to be much easier for us in our picture tonight is we're doing all the main shapes right now. And then you can come in here and fill everything in, which is just like filling in between the lines, which is really quite liberating. Okay. So you're going to reshape some of these leaves as you go, but you can see the overall composition. If I want to expand this, I can. If I want to add some more leaves, kind of like coming in from the bottom and the top, I certainly could. If I wanted to add in some green leaves, totally you can add green leaves. I could turn some of these rounded leaves from birch style leaves to green leaves from a tree. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to give you all just a couple minutes to play with the sketching. And then whenever you're ready, we're going to start to fill in some of these objects. If there's any questions, please do not hesitate to ask. But this is where you get to choose the style leaves that you use and the placements. Don't forget to breathe. Don't forget to enjoy your tea. Those are all the reasons why we're here. I love this. Heidi said when she turns her painting on the side, turns her cup into a pumpkin. That is fantastic. I love that so much. And I'll hold this a little closer so folks can see the detail. So I have some of those 5-pointed maple leaves. I have some rounded birch-like leaves. Some of those rounded leaves I may turn green, which could be really pretty. And then I tucked in a couple flowers because, hey, why not? There's no rules with art. And as I was drawing this in, Again, some of my leaves look more like stars right now. It's okay. I can add that rigid teeth-like detail. And I have some more questions. Let's take a look. Yeah, if your paint of your background is wet, you let your background dry first. So you're not going to miss anything. Just make sure, just let your background dry, and then you can do the sketching. No problem. Excellent. So if folks are just joining, the steps are really we kind of drew our cup first on a white canvas, and then we painted around it. I did like tons of like funky oranges. I kept it as light as possible because I'm going to be putting darker colors on top. I really want there to be a contrast. But we're going to start painting because there's a lot of work here to do. So the first thing we're going to do is I want you to grab a small brush of choice, and we're going to paint some of these leaves. We're going to start with red, okay? You can do all your red leaves first. And I have just like candy apple red. And I'm just going to pick one of these red leaves, and I'm going to play with the outline. So I'm going to focus on using the tip of the brush only. So if you haven't painted in a while, don't focus on doing like big high pressure brush strokes. Hold your brush a little bit further back. And you can play with some of those details. So again, I'll hold this up closely for a minute. Everyone was using your pencil to sketch the maple leaves. And maybe I'll hold this a little closer here. Maybe that will be helpful for everyone. Perfect. So I'm doing all of my red maple leaves first. So I'm using the tip of my brush, and I'm just going to start with some of the outlining. And I'm going to outline some of these red leaves. The smaller the brush you use, the more control you'll have over this detail. And I like doing the edging first because it allows you to get familiar with your shape of your leaf. Okay. I'm doing small brush strokes. We'll bring in oranges here. Don't worry. It's not going to be all red. Just kind of trusting the process along the way. Doing little brush strokes just to kind of get this going. But then you can have fun with how you fill this in. So if you have yellow and red on your canvas, you can mix a little bit of the yellow with your red if you wanted to, just to add a little bit of an orange tone. These leaves can be as dark or as light as you wish, but we're just going to focus on doing a base color. So for me, I'm just having fun filling in these red leaves. So we're doing outlines first, and then we're just filling them in. We're going to add more texture and detail work, but I'm just going to guide us on how to get base colors for all of our objects. And then we go in and we do lots of detail work, okay? So just take your time. I did the outlining texture first, so you can see some of my leaf-like shapes. And you can come back in here, like if this leaf needs to be a little higher, I can make it a little higher, right? I can get I can even use a smaller brush for the teeth-like detail. You don't need to be too critical at this stage, which is hard, I know. But just come in, and our leaves are just doing base-like colors, okay? And we're gonna come in and make them look a little fancy after, I promise. So it's just trusting the process. Filling in these leaves is the best thing we can do right now. We're going to do this for all of our leaves. We're going to do base colors, and then we're going to come back to them. Okay. And it might look a little fourth grader like right now. Don't worry. If some of you want to bring in other colors and play with blending right now, feel free. So if anybody wants to bring in a little bit of yellow and orange, you're welcome to do that right now. I'm just bringing in a little yellow just to show you. You can totally do this. Everyone's at different levels in this class, so I'll always show you different things that you can do at different times. But feel free to bring in a little bit of yellow while your red is wet, and it will make it into a little bit of an orange. It's kind of fun, right? So you can consider that. Okay. but I am just gonna go work my way around. Okay, and I'm gonna do all my red leaves. That's my focus for right now. You can even come in with a small detailed like brush after to really make these leaves like have that teeth-like texture on the sides. A lot of artists do a lot of the basic shapes first, and then they'll come in and they'll refine and they will add that additional detail for that extra quality. So just know with these classes, we're going to bop around a little bit to get some of the basic coats in. Ooh, and there's a big red leaf over here. Look at this one. Wow, so big. You kind of have to embrace the process. I'm going to probably come in with a smaller brush. I'm going to rotate my canvas again. I'm a lefty too. Some of us are a little more challenged here with our angles. Nice. And you can look at the shapes of your leaves. So this leaf is like, it's kind of turned a little bit. So I could reshape this leaf. Look at this. Make it a little taller. Your leaves are not long enough. Make them a little longer. It's okay. And if you can see your pencil, don't worry. You can paint over that. Take a couple coats. It's all right. But getting all of our base colors in for our leaves. And then we'll come back and we'll snazz them up a little bit. If you wanted to, again, to bring in any oranges or yellows into these leaves while the paint is wet, you're absolutely welcome to. Some of you may be used to painting with oils where the things are very blendy. Some of you may not be used to any of this at all. This is a little bit of yellow, a little bit of yellow. You can see the fun blend. If you bring yellow into wet paint, it's going to turn into orange. So it's kind of fun to play with maybe where you want. Look at that. Some different colors on these leaves. So these leaves for me are red and orange, but we'll add some depth too. But I'm just working my way around. I'm doing all of my red leaves first. Excellent. So I'm just looking for those shapes that were my red leaves. So here's another one up here. Nice. So these leaves have 5 points. I'll add some kind of teeth textured like detail. I'll probably do that after because we're going to do another kind of pretty coat. But I'm hustling us, ladies and gents, so we get these basic coats down because there's a lot of painting we have to do here tonight. So I'll keep us on track, but you follow right along at whatever speed works for you. The recording's always available. So if we're going along too quickly, there's a lot of detail tonight. So I'm just buzzing right along, but always take your time. Okay. Some classes that we do are super detail oriented like tonight's. Other classes are a little more slow. They're all a little bit different based on the themes and the styles. So, but we like to keep things, a lot of variety in these classes. But most importantly, all of these designs are going to be approachable for you. Just go at your own speed. Pick and choose what details work for you. Okay. All right. So again, I want you to pace yourself, but get those red leaves painted. And I promise we're going to go in and make them look a little nicer. Okay. But we're going to buzz to we're going to make orange leaves next. Maybe green leaves too. So you can pick and choose if you want these to be orange or green. Now, my leaves are going to be, I'm making a choice as an artist. I want you to pick what you want your second leaf color to be. My second leaf color is going to be orange and yellow mixed together. Love, love, love this color. Find a color that you like for a secondary leaf color. Okay. If you don't want a secondary like foliage color leaf, you could just do green leaves. Totally fine. You as an artist can make that choice. There is no right or wrong. I'm going to start with this color and I'm going to pick a color and start with it. And I'm going to start painting in some of these leaves. And you're going to say, hey, does this color work? If it does, great. If not, what do I need to change, right? Those are things that are going to happen. My background was a little darker. This is kind of a mustard color. I do not hate it. I think that this would look really pretty with some hunter green, like accent leaves. So I'm going to use this color and I'm going to use like a hunter green accent as another component to all this. Or a grass green leaf. We'll see what happens. So maybe this is more yellow right now, but I may bring some more orange into it. So it's okay to start somewhere and see where it goes. But you can see I'm working my way around. Again, you can be playful as you paint these in. Maybe I'll bring in a little bit of orange. Look at this. This is so fun. Maybe on the outside of these leaves, I add just a little bit of orange. So art is all about experimenting. So some of you may not have taken any of my classes before, and you may be here to just follow along and have like 100% guidance. I fully support that. You can absolutely follow along with what I'm doing. But some of you might be open to trying your own thing or experimenting with how you add color. And I'm here for you too. So we like to keep these classes really fun and flexible with what colors you use and how you add these colors, etc. So I'm just dancing around these cute little flowers and I'm mixing yellow and oranges together and I'm just having fun, okay? Because this is one of the low risk parts of the class. You're just doing a base color for these leaves. See how these leaves are just, they're starting to show up. That is the intent of this step. The leaves are starting to appear, okay? That is it. It's easy as that. I just want my leaves to start to appear and then we can make them look nicer. But it's good to get these base coats in because then we can make them, we can snazz them up a little bit. And they're going to dry, right? So the red ones are drying right now. Imagine that. You can play with the oranges. Maybe you bring in a little bit of a orange juice orange in. Maybe you bring in a little bit of yellow to these leaves. Play with, without cleaning your brush. And you all can do this, no matter if you've painted before or not. Try, you don't need to clean your brush. Kind of dab back. This is a yellow. This is an orangish yellow. And this is an orange. And you can play with getting a little bit of this and putting it on. And getting a little bit of this color and putting it on. You don't need to clean your brush. We're just filling in these beautiful leaves together. That's it. And if they're multiple colors of oranges and yellows, they're actually going to look more real, believe it or not. Because most forms have light and dark hues and shades on them. So when you have a little bit of extra yellow on an object, it'll add a little bit of extra brightness to that leaf, which is really fun. Some of my leaves are a little more orangey. Some of my leaves are a little more yellowy. It's okay. These are all base colors. With acrylic, things dry quickly, and you can always paint over something if you don't like it. So don't stress too much. And you can play with adding in, maybe I'll put a little bit of extra orange on this leaf over here. Just have fun. No risk here. We're just having fun with our base coats. And it helped with the sketching because we have room for placement, right? Maybe I need to make like a bigger leaf up here. So maybe I'm going to add, maybe you have a gap, right? So I added a bigger leaf up here on the top. I needed that. Okay. If you can see your pencil, we're going to need just more paint on top. Sometimes putting a little bit of white paint in will help cover up your pencil lines. There's a lot of different things you can do there. I'm going to get a little crazy. I'm going to get a green out. And I'm going to figure out, do I want to tuck in like a green leaf anywhere? Maybe. And again, full disclaimer, the more leaves that we paint, the more detail we have to do, but we're going to keep it easy for tonight. Okay. So I have a nice clean brush. My leaves are a little bit wet, which I'm sure all of yours are, just like mine. So I'm gonna say, well, my green leaves are probably gonna touch those yellow leaves. So I probably don't want to go no with those yet. But I do have flowers that I have on here. And you can think about, what color should my flowers be? What's a color that I could do that would match? Maybe it's a pink flower. Maybe it's a yellow little flower, like a light yellow. That could be really pretty. Our latte is going to have like brown on the inside. So maybe as our leaves dry, we'll switch to our latte. If you don't know what your flowers may be yet, but you can just let those sit there and think about it. I don't know, we could do lots of colors for our flowers. We could do little light blue flowers because there's a little blue on our cup. So I love being daring in these classes and doing different things. So maybe I'll do little light blue flowers today, light blue. You could do light purple would be really pretty too. Or you could even do white flowers. White would be a really nice choice. I'm gonna do light blue because I love living my life vicariously and on the edge, so risky in these classes by just doing a fun different color. But I would make them light. If you wanted to make them like a dark purple or something, you certainly can. This is where you have the choice. But I'm just gonna grab a clean brush and I'm gonna mix a light blue. And guess what? If I don't like the light blue, I can always paint over it, okay? So no big deal. But I'm gonna take a little bit of white right here. And I'm gonna mix it up with a little bit of my blue. And I'm gonna find a nice light blue color. And I have a little bit of light blue on my cup. So this color is actually gonna match my cup. But blue and red are really nice complementary colors. So I'm just making a cute, soft light blue. I think this is gonna be really pretty. And I'm just gonna fill these flowers in, okay? So I have little leaf-like shapes. I'm just gonna kind of fill them in one by one. And I have little leaves. I'm gonna leave the leaves around my flower to dry. Around my flower, because I'm gonna do green there, excuse me. And we can come in and add some more detail work for these flowers, but just paint them in their basic shape, basic form. And if you cover up some of your pencil marks, it's okay. You can always come in here and re-detail that work, and we'll do that together. But look at this light blue. I love this so much. One thing you can do as you are playing with this blue color is, there we go. I'm gonna put a little bit of a darker blue back on my plate. If you have a teeny tiny brush at home, I have a really flat edge. You can use a teeny brush or a flat edge to outline where those little leaves are, those little petals. So you're kind of using a darker blue. Look at this, so stinking cute, to outline your petals. So if you lost track of your petals, use a darker blue to come in and outline them. Look at how cute that looks. It's not done, it's not perfect, but if you wanted to kind of find those petals again, my brush is actually, it could be much smaller, but I'm just kind of illustrating to you what it's like. It uses the bristles, go really small. I'm doing a little bit of rounded petal-like designs. And I love this blue so much. If anybody's taken my classes before, you know that I'm a blue girl. Love blue so much. But just try creating a couple layers in the middle of this flower. Maybe it's a little smaller. Maybe some of the petals on the outside are a little bit bigger. If you don't like the blue, it's okay. I think it's super cute. I love it. Everybody has different tastes in these classes. So that's why I like to talk about you choosing your own colors, choosing your own designs and own styles. So no matter what we're painting, I'm always going to give you a choice. This is not paint what Megan paints class. It's about getting you inspired for what you want to paint in these classes. So you can see I have some bigger petals to the outside and I have a couple smaller ones to the inside. As an example, right? Some of you might be adding green leaves. So my basic blue flowers are painted. Some of you might have done white flowers. If anybody's doing white flowers, you can use a gray color to outline your petals, right? It's a darker tone, darker shade. Okay. There's a lot of ways to paint flowers and petals, which I'm sure some of you know if you've done any art classes before. So just do whatever you're comfortable with. There's always lots of ways to do things. I am going to grab a little bit of green paint. Some of you might already be ahead of me here, but I'm going to come in and add just a little bit of green paint for a little bit of green leaf-like detail. Sometimes mixing green with a little bit of white helps. It depends on the quality of green paint that you have. My green paint quality is, I think this is an older paint, so it's not great. So I'm adding a little bit of white just to like help with the pigment. Everybody has different paints, so it's all good. But I'm going to add a little bit of green petal-like detail around some of these little blue flowers. And then I'm going to think about, as an artist, do I want to add green anywhere else? And I was really thinking about it, but you can make those choices, right? And sometimes it's okay to think on the fly. It really is. And I like to talk about that in these classes because you don't need to come into these classes knowing everything. You just need to show up, and we'll get there together. But be sure just to use whatever brushes you're most comfortable with. I love these little blue flowers. It's going to be such a nice touch for our painting today. And I'm being thoughtful and letting all of these other flowers dry. I'm doing that intentionally. I'm doing that really intentionally. I'm going to do second coats on these so they really stand out. I'm doing some big leaves. I'm doing some small leaves around these flowers. And wherever I have a little bit of blue, I do want to put a little bit of green. So you can see I have a little bit of green up here. And you can have fun with it. This is like really coming to life. I love that we have a little bit of an extra blue flower kick. I think it's a nice touch. This is where, as an artist, you can figure out where else you might want to add green, right? So I love that I have a little bit of green around some of these blue flowers, but I'm definitely inspired. And this is where I get a little crazy. I'm going to add a couple of like small green leaves up here too. You can do little lines. You can make some choices. They don't have to be all big. Your leaves can just be little, like kind of blades of grass. See how I just did a little bit of a blade right there? Just a little bit of this in here. See how that really complements like the whole thing? If this is too much green for you, you don't have to do it. This is obviously like a foliage style, but I like the little bit of green. You can figure out how much or how little you may want to do. So I have a little bit there. And I'm just going to add just a couple of little kind of green leaves down here just to like balance it out. You don't need to have too much. I like for you as an artist to think a little bit mindfully. So I talk a lot about mindfulness in these classes, and it's not the breathing kind of mindfulness, which I totally support, but it's the pausing and the reflection of your work along the way. And in this instance, it's really speaking to being mindful of where you might want to add green. If you want to add green, some of you may not want to, right? So I added just a little bit. I'm thinking mindfully, well, where else do I want to add a little sprig? Okay, I added just a little sprig tucked in over here because I'm going for a balance of green, a visual balance. And I think I just need a little bit more over here. And I think that's enough green for me. If I lean this back, I can see that it's a nice, beautiful foliage, you know, fall and summer foliage, which I kind of like that we kind of brought some of the greens back in here. So have some fun, just get some of those basic greens in. And we're gonna let this whole background dry. This is where we can all be like really detail oriented. This one's a really high detailed class. They're not always this detailed. Sometimes our classes are about an hour and a half. Sometimes they're 2 hours. Tonight's class will be closer to 2 hours. If you can't stay for the whole class, don't worry. We will have a recording available for you. But it's really fun as an artist to try and do different things. So I want to applaud you all for making the time for yourself tonight to be a part of our activity. But be sure to go at your own pace, as always. Okay. So if you are interested, and I want you to get all the base coats for your leaves. So you can see my leaves look unfinished. That's okay. You can see I have my base coats in for all of my basic shapes. That's what you want at this point, okay? I want everyone to be comfortable and to have that. I'll give you all a couple minutes to play with that. We're going to be intentional about letting our leaves dry 100% before we do any of the fancy work, okay? We're going to do our mug, our chai latte, our coffee with a little cinnamon on top, however you like to make your warm fall delicious drink. You can do that in a moment with me. So we'll do our cafe latte here next. But feel free to take a moment if you need to go to the bathroom, if you need to go to the kitchen, feel free to do that. We're about halfway through class. Annabelle, I'm so glad you're here. Thank you so much for the feedback. All right. And be sure to, if you're interested in joining our next month's class, be sure to register, share with a friend. We'd love to have more folks join. If you have any questions as you're painting, please don't hesitate to ask. In the steps that we were working on, we are not striving for perfection. We are striving for base coats of our flowers, of our leaves. Because then we're going to go back as our phase 2 and we're going to make them look a lot snazzier, right? Whether it's brighter or adding depth or lightness. So we'll do that after. But we're going to jump to our mug next. So we are going to make the latte part first. So the latte part is the brown part in the middle. So I want everybody to mix a brown. Now, some of you are like, Megan, how the heck do I make brown? So I have red and green on my picture here. The easiest way to make brown, you can ask my 4-year-old, is to mix red, blue, and yellow together. So I'm going to show you how a 4-year-old can make brown here. Red, blue, and yellow all mixed together. You can also mix red and green together. You can also mix blue and orange. So there are so many ways to make brown. And you don't need too much. I'm going for here's my 3 colors here. Let's see what kind of brown this makes. And I can coach you through on how to change your color to be more brown or not. So let's do this together here. Yellow is a very important color for brown. I have more of a plum. So if anybody has more of a plum, add a little more yellow. And I decided to not taint any of my other colors because I need them for the future. So yellow will make a purple, a little more brown. And you might need a little bit more red. So if it's still plum, you might need a little bit more red to turn it. Let's see, maybe not red. Yeah, a little bit more red. And we're going to make it a little bit lighter too. So take a few minutes to, there we go. It's turning here. I need a lot more yellow. So if yours is purple, you can even take out some of the purple. Like if you have too much of it, just kind of pull some of it to the side and just add more yellow. So it takes a minute, but you can I'll do it. I know you can. Yellow is an important component of brown. There we go. And this is it's a patience thing, right? This is blending. Some of you might have brown and you're just walking on easy street right now. That's all right too. So there's my brown. I added more yellow, ladies and gents. I will always teach you how to make the most very cool colors in these classes. Just from your basic primaries, you need to go out and buy a fancy paint set if you don't want to. I'm here to show you how to do those things. So my brown is pretty brown. I am going to add a little bit of white. I'm going to make it a little lighter. So I'm going for like a light chocolate, milk chocolate color, like a hot cocoa color maybe. You can choose, find a color that you like. And then with a smallish brush, I want you to, we're going to leave some padding. See this? For your mug edge. You can decide how much padding you want to leave. My brown's a little purple. It's okay. You want to have a white rim for your mug. I need a little more yellow. I have a lot of purple going on here. It's okay. Your paint color can evolve. No big deal. This is why we're here. There we go. Let's see how this color is. Oh, much more brown. I just went from a sharp purple to a real brown here. Excellent. And we're going to make this lighter too, so no big deal. But we're going to go around and we're going to fill the inside of our coffee. I have a lot of white space. I kind of like that amount of white space. In my original painting, I had a lot less. So you can choose as the artist how much you want. Now, I did not draw an inner circle. I'm eyeballing this, ladies and gents. If you happen to have like a half a cup measuring cup or something, and you want to like draw or trace like an inner circle, I am not going to tell anybody. If you want to freehand it like me, you can totally freehand it. You can make that choice. You can make that choice. So we're basically doing an inner circle. This is our cup of joe here. We're filling in this whole interior space. And you want the padding to be fairly even all the way around. So this is a little bit of a tricky part, right? It's really hard to make this like incredibly even all the way around. I use the edge of my brush to get a nice smooth edge, and I take my time. See how I did a nice smooth edge? Nice smooth edge. And it's hard to get it perfect. Just do your best. That's why we're here. Go slow. I'm holding my canvas with my hand. Whether your canvas is on an easel or it's lying flat, if you have any thick paint, just keep moving it around so it's not goopy. That's really important. This is like a serious cup of joe here. I love the color that it's so much darker. I wasn't planning on that. And this is like one of those happy little accidents because the contrast is really nice for all the other colors that I have. It's really coming together visually. So this is the fun part. You can kind of do some swirling like with this wet paint. And then you could take a little bit of white paint with your brown. You can kind of create some swirls inside. You can be as liberal or as crazy or as particular you want about this. We're going to do our latte design on top of this, but this is like a secondary design. Ooh, things just got real. So I have a little bit of white and light brown, and I'm just going to swirl until I'm happy. It's kind of fun like this. Like I have some nice contrasts. You can play with your swirl. I am going to do the pretty latte design in white on top of this. So this is just kind of like a fun little detail for you to play with. So do your first little swirl until you're happy and just leave it. I think I'm happy with mine. And while that's drying, I'm just going to use a little bit of white paint and clean up the edges You could do that now if you wanted to. We are going to kind of come in and like make our leaves a little bit more detailed. So you could hold off on that. Or you could do that now. Mary, the recording should be emailed to you after today's class, but thank you so much for being here. All right. So I might wait actually to do like the white outlining just because I'm probably going to get like green and yellow and stuff on here. So we're going to let Mary, thank you so much. Hope to see you next month. I'm going to let my latte design dry so we can do our pretty design on top. But this is where I'm going to go back to my leaves. So again, patience. We've let our leaves dry. So now we can go back in and play with our secondary detail. So now you can go back to maybe your red leaves and play with some texturing. I have my red paint. I'm using red paint on top of these leaves because I added a little bit of oranges, I added a little bit of yellows. And I'm just going to play with adding a bit of red to the edging. I'm going to do my red leaves first. And maybe I'll use the tip of the brush to give these leaves a little bit of that vein-like detail. See, I'm just doing small little vein-like detail. I would say use the smallest brush you have for this like vein-like detail. But you can play with bringing in any secondary colors to your red leaves, whether that's oranges, yellows. These leaves are going to be darker for me than my original. In the original, they were kind of like lighter on the interior. You can pick and choose. If you want to see what a little bit of lighter looks like, I'm happy to show you. I love in these classes being the guinea pig just to kind of show you what it looks like to do different things. So up here at the top, you can see I'm adding like a little bit of yellow and orange. You might like the look of that, and you can do that. So this is like a little bit of yellow and orange. And I'm having fun. This is like a yellow orangish color that I'm doing. See that? I'm just having fun with some texturing. We will use a tiny brush at the very end to do the vein-like detail. So don't like do that right now if you feel like you don't want to. I'm going to do that after. I just want to be happy with the color of these leaves. So that's what I want you to focus on at this point. So for your red leaves, they could be more red. I'm playing with bringing in a little bit of the oranges. I'm painting with the tip of my brush. You can do smooth brush strokes. You could do little dabs. You can kind of pick and choose what you want to do. Okay. Have fun with it. Just do what you like. This is your style right now. This is your taste. Lean back in your chair, reflect on your work. I'm just playing with these red leaves first. If anyone has any questions, let me know, but this part's really up to you. We will, with a detail brush, we'll do some outlining of these leaves, but just play with the color at this point. So for me, I'm happy with the color. There's obviously not a ton of detail on the inside of these leaves. I will use a darker color to do some outlining. So for me, but I am happy with like the multiple colors in these leaves. You can see I have some light and some dark, so you can play with that. I'm going to do the same thing with my yellows. So figure out what color, if I want to bring a little bit more yellow to these leaves. But take your time there. Want some juice? Okay, so I did some fun colors. And I'm gonna go have some fun with yellows. So with yellow, I have like a lemon yellow. So I'm gonna brighten these leaves up just a little bit. The bright yellow doesn't really work for the picture, so I might mix a little bit of yellow with white, right? So this is where you can be playful with like what colors you want to use and where you might want to lighten something here or there. So those are all the fun choices that I'm here to remind you about as an artist. You're all artists tonight, you all know that. About finding the right colors. So for me, I could put this lemon yellow right on these leaves, but I don't want to do that. So I'm going to mix a little bit of this yellow and this white together. And maybe I'll grab a little bit of this orange just to see what happens. I want a little bit of a different color. And this color may or may not work, but just think about a secondary color that you could add to some of these leaves, these yellow ones. Ooh, so this is a little bit of these orange leaves. So this is a little bit of a lighter color. Interesting. You have to figure out if you like it or not. I'm not sure I like it, and that's okay. You have to just make these playful choices and decisions. I'm adding a little bit more orange to it. I do like that it has a lighter contrast to it. So what I may do is I'll have a little bit of this lighter orange and yellow, but I'm going to make a darker orange and just add a little bit of a darker orange contrast on some of these leaves too. So what I'm playing with right now is give it right there. Thank you. What I'm playing with right now is depth techniques. So whenever you paint any given object, you can add a little bit of dark, you can add a little bit of brightness to bring an object to life. So what we'll do for these ones, and you can play with me if you want here. This might be too much for some of you, but I like talking about this because we do something like this in almost all of our classes. Having a little bit of a darker tone and a little bit of a lighter tone will really bring an object to life. It adds the highlighting or the brightness. And then the darker part adds a little bit of the shading. So look at this with a darker orange. This looks so cool. Down here in this bottom corner, you can outline some of these leaves with a darker orange. And you can see it's really making some of these leaves just stand right out, jump off the page. See that? So another element you can consider for tonight's class, and I love using ink, is you could use a black ink pen to outline some of these leaves at the very end if you wanted to. So cool. You could even use like a little bit of red on some of these orange flowers. Look at this, on these orange leaves on the edges. This is me experimenting, just kind of showing you what it's like to experiment. If you don't like it, you don't have to do it. But we're doing secondary detail work on these leaves. So you can kind of pick and choose where you go here, but I want you to look at all your leaves. I'm working on the orange and yellow leaves. We're gonna do some, the vein-like detail at the end with a very tiny brush, but we're playing with the color on these leaves. I want you to be happy with the color. And how pretty. As you look around, you may have gaps, like color gaps, from one leaf to another. Just tuck in a new leaf, like near another, if you have any gaps. So for me, I had a little bit of a gap up here. Just tuck in a little bit of orange to fill that space. You got it. Just to kind of fill the bouquet, per se, around your cup. Okay. Annabelle, thank you so much for joining. Good to see you again. All right. And we're going to do a little bit of dark green detail work. Our cup is drying. Diane, thank you so much for joining. Hope to see you again. I'm going to use a little bit of green. And I have a little bit of brown. And I'm just going to use, we'll do a little bit of outlining. We'll keep our green leaves. If anybody has green leaves, we'll keep them really straightforward. But I'm mixing green and a little bit of brown. We're going to do some like outlining work for our green leaves. We'll keep the outlining and the detail work pretty simple, just to kind of for time's sake for tonight's class. But again, if you wanted to do more or less work, you absolutely can. I am happy with the color of my orange leaves, and I'm happy with the color of the red leaves. My green leaves are just green, which is fine, but I'm taking a little bit of a darker green, and I'm going to outline some of my green leaves so they jump off the page a little bit. And I mix brown and green together, because why not? If you wanted to play with some like leaf-like design, you could. This painting could be very detailed, and it could be, or it could be very simple. You can make those choices. There's no wrong here or there for this class. Okay. I'm just requesting, try adding a little bit of darker green to complement if you have any green leaves. It's kind of like with your orange leaves, use a darker orange to complement the shape. If you have red leaves, use a dark red to complement. But for me, I'm just doing a little bit of outlining. You can always tuck in this dark green into any little nooks and crannies. Like if you have any shaded spots. Oh, I love tucking in a little bit of this dark green. It's kind of like if anybody's ever painted like a bouquet, it's like you can put green anywhere because it's just filling in your bouquet, right? It's quite fun. I'm just outlining these little green petals. I could be using a much smaller brush. I'm just kind of having fun tonight. Using a smaller brush will give you more control for that close detail work, but you can see what a little bit of that dark green does. It really brings it to life quite a bit. Okay. So take a few minutes to play with that. All right. If anyone has any questions, please let me know, but I'll let you play with that dark green color or the dark red or adding the dark orange. Okay. So we're doing really well. We're all starting to appreciate the composition of our picture now, which is really quite pretty. And I'm so excited to see everybody's work. Some of our remaining steps for class are we're going to use a tiny detail brush, the smallest brush you have. We're going to do some vein-like detail, and we'll do some outlining for our red leaves and for our orange leaves. And then we're going to refine our cup. So our cup will have a little bit of light blue. We're going to have it be a white cup. If you wanted to make your cup, you know, light yellow, you can. I have the cup white because I want it to the contrast to stand out. So I'm intentionally going to let my leaves dry right now. And then I'm going to go and work on my cup next. While my leaves dry, I want you to be done with like that second coat of leaves before you move on to the cup with me, because we need those leaves to dry and flowers to dry. So we can do the final work on the leaves. This is like a 3-step leaf process. We don't always do this much detail for awareness, but this was such a beautiful scene. I wanted to make sure we gave it its due diligence of all the pretty work that we could do. So since my background, my leaf colors, I'm happy with, I'm going to shift back to the cup, but go at your own pace. This is where I am going to make the outside of my cup nice and clean and white. So I have some pesky green that's come in here. I have some pesky yellow. I'm just going to do a nice clean edge for the white cup. Okay. So it's crowding me here. I'm just pushing my bounds out to say, hey, this is my white cup. Get out of here. Nice smooth edges. And I have some information that I'll share with you at the end of class about additional classes. If if you're interested in doing more art outside of the AARP resources, I do offer more classes. So if anybody's interested, please let me know. I'm happy to share that. But I do hope you register. Ashley included the registration link for our next AARP class. I hope you can come. We do fun inspirations every month together. Oh, and thank you, Francis. Awesome. Francis is also on the AARP team. All right. So I just did a nice clean outline around my cup, and look at, I have this a little on my handle too. Some of you might have to reshape your handle. The handle, I learned from my inspiration, it's got to be straight. See how it's like fairly perpendicular, like very parallel on one side of the other? That straightness helps a lot with the handle. So if your handle looks a little funky, try making the top edge a little more straight and the bottom edge a little more straight. Try it. Okay. The other thing that I did with a little bit of light blue paint is I did a thin light blue line around my coffee area. So find a small brush. This brush, we'll see how this goes, but I'm doing a light blue line around. This is blue and white mixed together. I think I need to mix some more. Thank you so much for joining. If anyone has to drop off, I totally understand. I want to thank you for being here. Awesome. Tia, thank you so much for joining. So glad you're having a good time. All right. I'm mixing some more light blue ever so patiently. If your white is tainted like mine, get some more clean white. And I'm using my pinky to stabilize my hand. There we go. And I'm doing a blue line. It's going to add a little bit of a depth technique. We aren't going to do anything too fancy here. We're just going to do a light blue line around the coffee part, the latte part. Love this. You can put a little water on your brush. If you need to stretch your blue paint, put a little water on your plate and mix it around. Water is our best friend. We use water a lot in these classes for blending techniques. We do so much fun stuff. So be sure to sign up for the next class. Also bring a friend, tell a friend about these classes. AARP has a ton of wonderful resources, and it's such a pleasure to be here. And I'm so glad that all of you have made time for yourselves to be a part of this event tonight. All right. I'm just doing a blue outline around this coffee. And look at that, it adds just a little shading. How cool. Oh, Deb, happy birthday to Mom. I'm so glad you're here. Go enjoy that cake. I hope it's good. You deserve it. Okay. So I did my blue line. Oh, I'm so glad your mom loved it. Wonderful. Okay. So what we're going to do next is I'm going to grab the smallest brush I have, and I'm going to do my super fun latte design inside of my mug. Because we're coming close to time here. I want to be mindful if folks have to leave early. So I grabbed a tiny brush, and this is where you can have fun with that swirling latte design. Now, I did a heart last time, which was so fun. So I'm going to do another heart. And if anybody can do these latte designs, like, gosh, teach me how to do it, because I'm like so in love with them. So I'm doing a little bit of a heart here. And then they have all these loops and swoops and things, which are so fun. So you just can really have fun with it. You kind of do a parallel design on each side. And I'm not using nice thin lines. Let me make sure this is even. It's not really even. Hold on. Sometimes I paint from the side and it's a little tricky. There, that's a little better. I can get the brown in here and come fix it too. But I do want to make sure this is nice and straight. It actually doesn't matter too much. So then you can just kind of bring these lines down and around. And they're all going to be connected here. So you can do all these loops. This is all going to be connected here. So you can kind of connect them here, kind of like your lungs. Like it's a really strange reference, but kind of like connecting them all, like your lungs and your ribs rather, excuse me, your ribs are all connected. So you can kind of have fun with this design. And then you can have a little bit lighter of a hand, rounding down. So you can do as much or as little as you wish here. Just kind of showing you the different ways of doing your latte design. So maybe you do one side first, just kind of round them. They all kind of connect in the middle. If you do something you don't like, guess what? You can get some of that brown paint. I'll probably fix my heart a little bit. You can always paint over something if you don't like it. See this latte design? So cute. It doesn't have to be perfect. This is something that we're striving for that's fun. If you need to make any of these lines shorter, you can. No big deal. You can play with how much or how little you do. And again, I'm going to connect these. Mine's a little bendy. Let's see. Probably come in here with a little bit of brown and fix it up a little bit. But you can see, and some of these even kind of round on top. So they kind of do this like swirling effect. You do that, nice rounded effects. And you can paint over some of this. So if it's too white for you, get a little bit of that brown and come in and fix it. It's no big deal. This is really relaxing. Mine is not perfect by any means. I'm also painting from the side tonight, which is probably distorting my angles, but I'm not sweating it. You want to know why? It's because I have this brown paint right here and I can reshape my objects. I can fix things as I go. So if I need to add a little bit more space in between some of these latte designs, I can get my round paint, come in here and fix it right up. Okay. If it's too much, then you can paint over some of it. It's no big deal. Okay. So I like the nice clean lines. Maybe some of these just need to be like a little bit more wispy. So you can kind of soften some of these white lines with a little bit of brown, and it kind of helps it blend in a little bit more. So I'm using a little bit of a lighter brown to like soften the swirl, right? Soften the design. And that's kind of nice, right? And if you want to soften like this line or this pull, you can soften this. So it's like a little more swirly, right? So if you wanted to kind of do like a light brown and kind of just swirl it on top of it, just do some swooping lines to help it blend, you could do that. For me, this heart is a little too big. I'm just feeling I was a little overachieving here, ladies and gents on my heart. So you can always make it a little smaller. With art, it's okay to make modifications. And I love doing that in these classes because it shows you if you do something you don't like, you can always change it. And I love that philosophy with art. Love, love, love it. Okay. So this really funky design, my line in the middle is a little too thick, so I can come in and kind of narrow it down. My like connector line. So you can come in and fix that. No big deal. If your paint is wet, just let it dry. You can come back. But see how the light brown really made it kind of like, it's kind of like the foam is melting into your cup a little bit, which is kind of nice. And I could do some like, fun little like melting work on my heart to make it look a little more realistic. All good. Okay. So play with that. I might put a little bit of light blue on the underside of the handle, and then we'll shift to doing our red detail work. It's our final step. So you could do a little bit of light blue on your handle to kind of make your handle stand out. I did leave the cup all white around. That was intentional. If you wanted to add a little shading, you could, but I'll jump right into the dark red detail work so you can see what some of those final details are. But I love how the light brown has really softened my latte design, which it worked out perfectly. it's because I had the confidence just to keep going and know that it would be okay. And I love that demonstration of just not knowing and being open to the process. So that's one of the fun things, a part of this journey. So I'm making a dark red color. I mixed a little bit of red and I mixed it with this like purpley brown that I had. And I'm going to use this to outline my red leaves and create those veins. This is the final texture for some of the red leaves. You can outline some of your red leaves. You could pick just like one side. This is the depth work. You want a darker color. You want to use a brush with a nice fine tip on it, so you have the utmost control. And I'm doing thin red lines. You can see here. And I'm being careful of paying attention to the end of the brush. Nice thin lines. 1, 2, 3. And then I'm doing like little vein-like detail, kind of connecting like branches to a tree a little bit. This is all optional. You don't have to do all of this, but this is detail work that I'm including. You can see it right here at the top. This is a choice that you can make for tonight's class. I'm going to do the same thing over here. If anybody has to leave early, feel free. I'm going to just do a little bit more outlining. If anybody has any questions about tonight's class or future classes, please feel free to post them in the chat. But I want to thank you all for being here. I'm using this dark red to outline some of these leaves. There we go, right there. So you can see how it's really just allowing these leaves to jump right off the page. There's a lot of ways that you can paint foliage leaves. Tonight's was just one technique. Obviously, when you paint anything, you can do it in a lot of different ways. But then I just do some of these nice lines down, nice and thin. I could be using a thinner brush. I'm not using the smallest brush I have, but I'm just giving you an example of how thick or thin these lines can be. You can use a really soft hand. You can do some of these kind of branch-like detail. I am going to switch to a smaller brush. Let's see. Just to show you what this looks like. So I can just do a couple of veins kind of coming off. You can do as much or as little as detail as you wish. I'm just giving this as an example for you tonight. So you can see I'm just adding some of those. And then I can, again, just flip your canvas right around. The dark red outlining adds nice contrast to the edging of your leaves. You can play with the teeth-like texture detail on the edge of your leaves. This is where you can do as much or as little of that work as you wish. Your choices. Some people in these classes spend another hour after our paintings just to really be playful and refine the details. Especially if you have to leave early, you can always access the recording and kind of continue to play after if you have or need more time. But you can see this inspiration is really starting to come to life. Anywhere you need to do an extra outline to bring an object to life, you can certainly do that. Where I'm using red here, you can use a dark orange for your dark orange leaves. So you can be as textured or as like deliberate or as loose-handed as you wish for this like outlining detail. If you don't like this outlining detail, you do not have to do it. But I'm here to show you different tips and tricks. So again, I'm doing the outlining detail and then I'm doing some of this dark red vein-like detail to really just show some of this extra texture within the leaf. And I'm just kind of alternating, doing kind of like branch-like detail on like one side and then the other. And if you wanted to bring more colors into these, you could. I'm just rotating my canvas. Okay. And then you can, if you wanted to use a dark orange for the darker oranges, you can. It's really where you can play. If you could also use a dark green for your dark green too. So this is, it's so different. It's so fun. I hope you loved tonight's inspiration. We're doing well. A little bit of like brown and green will give you just like a nice darker green color. I'm going to show you what the darker green contrast looks like, just so you can see it. If you don't like this, you don't have to do it. But the contrast is really what some of this art is all about. You can also use a little bit of black. I have like a lot of dark brown on my plate, so I'm just using the paints that I have. So I'm just doing a little bit of some darker contrasts with these darker greens. It could be just like a little bit of this on the edges. If you wanted to add any more detail work to your flowers, you could. Susan, thank you so much for coming. Glad you had a nice time. So fun. If anybody wants to add any contrast around your cup, you could. I'll do it just to show you. So I'm adding a little bit of a darker rim around the outside of the cup. The reason it might work for this type of design is because there's a lot going on and it will allow the cup to really stand out. So if you have a brown, this is like a brownish green, I'm just outlining the cup for it to really stand out. Yes, and I'm happy to hold up the original. My original is so different, ladies and gents. Like this is where your mind is just totally blown. Are you ready for this? Okay, hold on. So my cups are totally different shapes. You can see I have a lot of shading and shadowing. Tonight's was a lot darker. So one of the things that you can consider is if you wanted to add more like green leaves, you could pick and choose. We didn't do a ton of shading work, but it's okay. It's absolutely okay. You can see how the lighter background really allows the leaves to stand off a little bit more. So if you really want any of your leaf objects to stand out more, just make them a little darker, especially around the edges. You could use your finger with like a little bit of like a dark purple or a little water and purple on your finger and kind of do some shading around the outside of the edges to bring them and lift them. So I love showing you different, like the lights and the darks, especially with the different contrasts, because there's nothing wrong, right? The differences are really fun. And I'm so glad that you all like seeing that. This was lighter and a little more airy, but this has a really different feel, right? My cup needs a little love. I need to add a little bit more white, but I do like the dark surrounding the edges on this one, because it really helps it jump out from our little leaf foliage cluster. And I do love the blue flowers. So I'll keep working on mine, but let's check in with everybody. I'm going to remove the spotlight and I'm going to hit view gallery in the top corner. And if anyone wants to take a minute just to flip your picture around and share it off. Oh, Juliana, look at these leaves. Dana, amazing. Colette and Sharon, awesome. Beautiful job, ladies. I see so many green leaves tucked in. Sharon Jones, Terry, and Kathy. Oh, Rhonda. I love that Rhonda did the real cup. I was so tempted, Miss Rhonda. Next time I'll do that cup. And there's Miss Jenny Grant. Jenny, amazing job. Thank you all for sharing your work. Oh, Deanne did this little cappuccino cup. Deanne, that looks so amazing with this heart coming off. There's Miss Lynette's. I love the colors. You all did so phenomenal. And here comes Mags. Oh, Mags did a blue cup with like a little dusting of leaves. Mags, that's so pretty. Lisa, nice job. I love Lisa's nice light background, Lisa. Those leaves look wonderful on top. Nice. Miss Sharon. Sharon did a smattering, a dusting of leaves. I like the dusting of leaves. I like that quite a bit. Wonderful. Oh, there's Miss Debbie's. Oh, Debbie has 3 cute, they look like little marshmallows in there, Debbie. I don't know if that's hot cocoa or not, but I think that's quite pretty. It's awfully a small picture, but I like the design. Wonderful. Oh, so fun. So at this point in the class, you all kind of get where we're at. We have about 10 minutes left, but I want you to just refine your own work. Everyone's doing something a little different. Play with the contrast on those leaves. If you really want them to stand out a little bit more, pick a darker color than the base color you have and add some edging or play with the shading. We ran out of time tonight to do some of the fun shading, but as I told you, the more leaves we add, ladies and gents, the more detail work. So we don't always do this much detail work, but I thought it was a really fun class to jump in and do together. Be sure to check out the link in the chat. I will drop in some more information. If anybody's interested in painting more with me outside of AARP, you are welcome to check out. I offer 3 public classes a month, so you can check that out if you're interested in learning more. Let's see here. Just looking for everyone. Perfect. So painting with Megan on Patreon. Yeah, but I hope to see you all again. And a big thanks to AARP for having us. AARP New Hampshire is a wonderful partner. They have a ton of wonderful resourcing and programming. If you're not familiar with their caregiving resources, they're phenomenal. Whether you are you're learning about it or you are in the middle of it, the support they have to offer is truly terrific. So a big thanks to our AARP folks that are on the line tonight to help us really support and operationally execute the class. If anyone has any finishing touches, I will drop my email into the chat window. If anyone has any specific questions or follow-up questions, you're welcome to reach out. So it's megan@paintsipbt.com. But most importantly, I want to thank you for being here tonight for you. You certainly deserve it. And I look forward to seeing you at a future class. Woohoo, and well done. I look forward to seeing all of your work, but thank you so much for being here. I'll hang out for a couple minutes if anyone needs anything. Nice. Hope everyone had a nice time. Colette's working away. We're not going to bother Colette. She's in the zone. We like it when people are in the zone, Colette. Juliana's in the zone too. We like that. There's Miss Lisa. Lisa, so fun. I love your cluster. And the green was such a pretty addition. I'm so glad you did that. Oh, and there's some flowers. Amazing. I love that we added some like spontaneity, like a little bit of flowers is always a nice thing. There's still plenty of flowers this time of year, right? I think so. You could add like more wispies. You could add like some straw in your little floral decoration. So many things you could add to this. You know? Wonderful. Well, ladies, thank you again for being here. And gents, I do look forward to seeing you again in the future. Take care.